Here we are with the 3 ways for half an hour of depth and hopefully also fun. So today's topic is transgression. So transgression is meant for connection and desire for connection and understanding. There are several aspects though that people might not have acknowledged yet related to transgression. So today, initially, we will dive into it. Hi guys!
Hi! How are you two?
Good. You guys? So nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Where in the world are you now, Francesca?
Milano, always, at the moment.
Nice. Nice. All right, so what? Oh, let me
Your
set.
background, guys, matches perfectly. So it looks like you are in the same place, of course, different details, but the sofas, they're aligned, so it looks very good.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And there's the black line between us, but I also have black paint up on it. Yeah, so that works. Wow.
Exactly. Wow. So today's topic is quite exciting because we all love transgression, but then of course we have many meanings for it, guys. If you want, we can dive into it together.
What does transgression mean?
Transgression means loving taking risks, breaking boundaries, breaking rules, breaking society morals. So, going against the crowd, but also sometimes breaking your own boundaries, which means losing yourself into transgression. So
I gotta look this word up on dictionary.com.
I'm sorry. So
that you don't know it. Finally, something you don't know, Amores.
Well, I do, but it's
I'm joking.
I know it differently. I know it, but I'm hearing you say, because that's what I want to know is what it means. I'm hearing you say transgression is sort of breaking through two things: breaking through buying into other people's beliefs and norms, and breaking through your own limiting beliefs. That's what I'm hearing you say.
It's basically a deep desire for connection and understanding, which brings you to break the usual rules and maybe boundaries that many people have, and morals of society, which often are impositions from society which you don't belong to. So transgression is fundamentally a deep desire for connection against what people make you believe. So it's basically the deep understanding people can have of their own self or of life along the transgression. So against the rules, the usual rules.
There was a lot of brilliance in what you just said, because you said reaching for connection, which opposes being the way we've always been, which means the rules of society, the social norms, disconnect us from who we really are. That was really good. That was really good. Yeah.
Of course, it brings to several aspects which are very negative, and we can share it together. So for me, it's a very common word because I'm a rebel. So for me, to be a rebel, it's part of who I am, but not in a negative way. So I don't follow what necessarily others impose me, so it's for me it's a common word. But I'm curious why you don't know this word, guys, because how would you define? Maybe you call it in another way.
Yeah, it almost sounds like you're saying transcendence, but
she described it right. It is an act that goes against a law, a rule, or a code of conduct. So that is transgression. And when we think about, if like the biblical term of transgression would be like, against morals, the act of transgression is like violating a law or a known principle, a crime, a sin, that kind of thing. So
in fact, it can have other aspects which are very negative. And the reason why is because the person disconnects from himself, and also can lead to suicide, can lead to killing someone, because it's this feeling of transgression, which comes from anger, comes from appunto, mainly disconnection, also moral ambiguity. So people, while we were together during this weekend, we were sharing about this topic, and people need the thrills in life. And so they asked me, Franci, what do you think about transgression? And I said, well, I love it, but what do you mean for it? Because as everything, there are many meanings for it. And so the continuous need, seeking the thrill, it's important, but what is the motivation and how are you going through this process is also important, because then you can also have compulsion and addictions that can be referred to transgression. So it's important to understand what is the motivation and what is the process you are following to lead you to transgression.
So DS Gentile or Gentile, is hypnosis automatically a transgression? I think the word is regression, maybe you're looking for there, doing regressions with hypnosis, but I definitely
Or digression.
I don't think that is the way.
Someone tried to egress from their trespass. That was the transgress on me. Yeah, it's a tough word, but thank you to the Italian for teaching us English.
I know.
Do we want to I'm a linguist. Do we want to transgress or we don't want to transgress?
Yes, we want to, but of course, as always, being aware of the motivation, because the motivation makes it meaningful and makes it deep. Otherwise, it's like losing yourself, taking risks, losing yourself, ending up in a dark zone, which is very difficult to come out. Because as we know, everything is life is a price. So the most important aspect of transgression is the consequence. If you know you are killing someone, the worst aspect of it, of course, accept the consequences. So it's all about motivation and consequences, but transgression itself is positive, in my opinion.
Let me see if I can put this in simple words regarding hypnosis, and you guys tell me if I got it right. Essentially, the request would be, hey, can you hypnotize me to transgress, to break out of this way that I've been programmed to be? And then we can give reasons or excuses, right? Social norms, the way my family was, doesn't matter. But I want to transgress. I want to break away from, I want to break out of this programming that was given to me, whoever put it there, even if I did it. Transgression is to break free from whatever your own norms became, however they got there. Is that about right?
Exactly, for a deep understanding. So the cause is right.
Yeah.
So then hypnosis is transgression, right? Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Hypnosis can help you within yourself, absolutely. That's why it's the best aspect, in my opinion, of hypnosis.
I just wouldn't use that word for, yes, I see how you can use that word or one definition of it, but, in the context I would use that word, I wouldn't put that towards hypnosis. But yes, what you just said, breaking out of, there's rules I will not follow if I do not agree with them, and there is rules that make sense, but like to transgress against something that doesn't make sense is perfectly fine. But to me, that always has the word's got more of a negative connotation than a positive type of connotation.
Because, of course,
yeah,
it's used for negative connotations, yeah.
Yeah, but okay, it can be switched around. Oh, and real quick, we got some people here as we go deeper into this. I just want to announce 9 days from now, next Saturday, not this Saturday, next Saturday, we are doing the 3-year anniversary of the Hypno Vault. And with that, we are doing a 4-hour mindset makeover workshop. And so anybody watching, if you click on that link or copy and paste it, you can register for free and join. I'm sure both of these two lovely ladies will show up and be hanging out with us too. It'll be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and we'll have a little break in the middle. It'll be a full just experience. We're doing tapping, we're doing affirmations, and I'm ending the day with a session called The Alchemist, a true session of transformation. So anybody that has there's no excuse not to be there. It's going to be just amazing. I'm doing giveaways, discounts, so Be a part of it. It's 10 days from now. There's the link. Let's get back to Francesca's idea.
Back from the commercial break. That's
No,
amazing, Glenn.
for
And I'm so proud
example,
of you and your
people
response.
having compulsions, of course, want to be part of the Hypnovolt and Sandy sessions because it's all about being in the moment, understanding the motivation, the consequences. So when we go too fast, sometimes when we transgress and we become compulsive, it's important. We can do this with drugs, we can do this with alcohol, we can do this, with many things, even at home with your children. I heard a terrible story from the TG here at the TV, and people are totally mad. So it's important to understand why do you want to be part of the Hypnovolt, find the motivation and be part of it.
Really
Yes.
good. Really good. Yay, 3 years of the Hypnovolt. Glenn, you're amazing. That's awesome. Not this, but next Saturday is going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'll talk about the crazy 3-year journey that it's been. And I'm going to give a little more background about it. Then we're just going to have a really fun day of doing all kinds of techniques and ways to just change and have a really great event together. So I'm super stoked. It's kind of my way of giving back, doing this free, half-day seminar. So I'm excited. And we'll have a great turnout. So join us.
Yay.
Don't miss it. You will be sorry you do.
So guys, if you want a beautiful Glenn, I love it. Unfortunately, I won't be there because I have a wedding, but I won't miss the next one. So I will also tell my friends to join you because it's very special. I've been part of it. It is amazing. So have you ever done any transgression in life, guys?
I've been thinking over these last few minutes about how to simplify it in my mind, which is just because Occam's razor, if you can't explain it simply, you can't explain it, right? And I'm getting the feeling that what you're going for, tell me if this is right, that what you're going for is people reaching for self-soothing, feeling better, connecting with who they really are. You use the word connection. So when I hear you say transgression, what I'm getting is, in plain, simple terms, people are like, this stuff feels bad, I want to feel better. I think connecting is feeling better, but I don't know how to connect, so maybe I'll choose drugs or alcohol or something that's not going to go well in the end. But it's all about, how do we get to that place of self-soothing? How do we get to that place of connection? And of course, can hypnosis be one of those ways where we can overcome ideas that aren't working for us, like drugs or alcohol or negative emotion? Is that about right?
Yes.
Okay.
Also, because it's not, I think it's more than connection, it's a deeper understanding and desire for connection. So people that go along transgressions often are people that are suffering, people that are in a negative way, that are suffering, that have compulsive behaviors, that have a lack of true connection. So because they have this deep desire, they're not still fulfilling, so they go beyond the usual connection. So it's basically the feeling of risk of wanting to feel more, but then unless you respect your boundaries, you lose yourself. Unless you respect the motivation, you have moral ambiguity. So it's all about more than connection, Cynthia. It's more. It's beyond the connection.
So tell us how you use it in a way.
Me with energy work and soul connection. For me, the risks I take, I always take them with my essence, completely present with my mind, heart, and spirit. So anytime I risk, I never regret, because of course it happened to me in the past. I'm talking about my conscious level since I'm a woman. I feel a woman, I don't drink as I used to, I don't have shots and I lose senses. We all have been through this. So I'm talking about risking with your essence. So not only with your body, not only with your brain, with your essence, which includes all of your senses, which makes basically your soul, in my opinion. So if you risk with your soul, any subject you study, if you do hypnosis, you risk never regretting, because there is lots of morality and cannot be mistaken.
If you could give us a specific question that we're answering right now, what would you say this question is that we're answering?
Which answers? Sorry, Sandy.
Right now. So Glenn is saying, like, how do you do this transgression? So what is the actual question that we're answering? Because I know we're hitting on something, but I don't feel locked in, and I want to.
The risk. So the fact that you risk with your soul within, we're talking about sensations, we're talking about connection, desire for connection. The moment you connect with your soul, even with yourself alone, in the moment you dive into your darkness, into your light, is a risk you take, because not everyone is able to. Not everyone is able to risk to dive into the one's essence of the oneself even. So it's about taking a risk, and you don't hurt anyone, you don't break your boundaries. It can only be positive and have positive outcomes and consequences. So it's all about which risk are you taking. Are you flying out of a mountain totally, without any protection, or are you risking knowing you can risk because you're diving deep? So there are differences between the two.
So now I'm understanding two different things. A risk, like jumping without protection, that's seeking adrenaline, seeking dopamine, seeking feeling better. We can get the seeking feeling better from drugs, from food, from meditation, from jogging, from breathing, right? So there are many ways to get dopamine, right? So that's the one. So we don't have to take a risk to get dopamine. But when you talk about taking a risk, going deep, perhaps sitting in silent meditation and allowing yourself to stay while you watch the inner workings of your mind and you think you're going to freak out, right?
Yeah. If, for example, asking tricky situations, which people might hate you for this, but going deeper, taking risks, not risking your life or not hurting others, because if you ask tricky questions, you will never hurt. You can only go deeper. And if you get hurt, at the end is depth. So, asking tricky questions, or creating tricky situations where basically people either open up or they feel ashamed not to open up. So to reach this limit that is excessive, that can be transgressional, but it's still at the depth and not breaking boundaries to the point of losing the self. So
To make this a little less word salady, I think I'm just about a book that is very much a part of the program in rehab centers. And the book is called Courage to Change. And anytime we really want to change, go back, understand where these patterns came from, and to transgress and really have the courage to see and look at, what are my behaviors, what are my actions, and what has led me to where I am in my life. Have I created what I want in my life, or have I created more of what I didn't want in my life? And it does take a tremendous amount of courage to change, to look at it, and to take responsibility for the fact that pretty much outside of your childhood, everything in your life is more or less your responsibility. Obviously we aren't responsible for the choices that our parents made in raising us. But at a certain point, you reach a level of understanding where if you have the courage to look at it, everything you have, there's a reason you have everything in your life, because you chose it. You made this decision which led to that. You took this job which led to this. You took this relationship which led to that. You did or didn't use protection which led to these kids that you made partner, or it worked out beautifully. But to understand that really our life was in our hands, and many people, especially today, that I work with, there's a feeling until we talk about this that their life has not been within their own control. Like their life has not been up to them, and they have more of a victim mentality over what's happened to them, when we have the courage to look at it. Our choices are what made these things happen in our life. And that's what I am feeling for what you kind of just shared.
Yeah.
And
And
Francesca and Glenn are saying actually the same thing in sort of different languages.
Yeah.
exactly.
When Francesca, when you talk about being a rebel, that's saying I'm not going to be a victim to what I was taught, whoever taught it to me, however I got there. Being a rebel is saying I'm not going to be a victim based on, I think, what Glenn is saying, right? It's making that choice of I don't have to be what somebody said I was going to be, and I don't need anybody's permission, right? So I had somebody write to me yesterday, and he said, I'm definitely not hypnotizable. People have tried to hypnotize me. I went to the best. I finally found a lady who taught me a little bit of self-hypnosis, where you do things where you start to feel stuff in your hands. You do it for yourself. He said, so after a bunch of times of trying, it actually sort of worked a little, and I felt pretty good. But the next thing you know, I got this deep in my own self-hypnosis meditation. I got these messages of end your life. Okay, this is what the guy writes to me. And so the first thing I said to him, best practice is, if you're serious about that, you're beyond my scope and call the hotline. Okay, I said, other than that, if you're just confused and you're asking a question, now I can answer your question. I said 25% of the people in the world are very, what we call, easily hypnotizable. Okay, and then 25% are mildly, pretty good, decently. So half the people you can hypnotize pretty well. All right, and it goes and goes. The last 25% are people who swear they can't be hypnotized. And what I explained to him is, you know what I'm going to say, Glenn? You're already hypnotized. Any good hypnotist knows when you come to them and you're in this extreme 25% of people who can't be hypnotized, you are so hypnotized that the job we need to do is first work on de-hypnotizing you. You have beliefs that there's a scary monster out there that can hurt you. You have a belief you're a victim to maybe somebody in your past, but where are they? Right now, right? In your head, right? So you're hypnotized into believing all of these scary things. You're hypnotized into believing that somebody can implant. He thought the lady who taught him self-hypnosis implanted bad things in his head. And you and I, we all know that the subconscious mind will never take in anything it doesn't want to take in.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yes.
And
so last thing about it is, yesterday I had a client talk to me about her experience with transcendental meditation, where they say the deeper you go, like deeper in the ocean, sort of the deeper, the bigger the fish, right? And no meditation session is a bad one. You're simply learning and learning and learning the inner workings of your mind. If you're scared of it, it means you're already hypnotized into thinking that fish can bite you, you see? Right? So transgression would be understanding that the only thing in your way of getting to where you want to be is stuff that you've been believing. And until you can buy that, you can't move forward. Because when people fight you on it, you say, well, what you're believing now is that it's more important to be right. It's more important to keep people away. So you can't connect, which is exactly how Francesca started the conversation. You can't connect.
exactly.
You're afraid of these things.
Yeah.
Breaking resistance is probably the biggest part of what we have to do, and not necessarily breaking it, getting in without resistance, because when I do a smoking session, right in the beginning of the session, I'll say, in hypnosis, I'll say to somebody, I could make you stop smoking right now, and it might last a week, a day, a month, but you'll take it back. Because even though you know this is for your own good, nobody likes to be told what to do. But when you make the decision that this is truly what I want for me, then it will last a lifetime. And it's a really important concept in counseling, even in talk therapy. One of the things that Dr. Kappas was such a genius about was when he was working with couples, he was like, why does 50% of all counseling, when it comes to couples, why is it not effective? It was even less than 50%.
Yeah.
It was like 40%.
Yeah.
Why is like only 40% of couples therapy effective? Because the counselor is speaking a different language to both parties. Like one party is not connecting with how they're being spoken to. and they're never going to get past that resistance. And
Yes. And when you talk about that resistance, I had somebody yesterday say, I went to this weekend workshop. It was expensive, but it was great. And I learned, she just told me this yesterday, I learned that I have all these limiting beliefs. And then she used all the words that they use in all of the therapies, right? I have limiting beliefs and right? She went through the list of all the things that she now knows are wrong with her. She said, so my question is, how do I fix it? And I said, right now, what you said is, there's this mountain over there. I've got to get to the mountain and then climb over it. I have to figure out who done it, why they did it, how long it's been there, whose fault it is, what's my reason. People love to say, I want to take responsibility. Are you kidding? Now you want to eat the mountain too? Okay. So all of this stuff. And I say to them, forget the walk to the mountain, forget the mountain, forget about taking any responsibility in. You know it. It's done. Where do you want to go? People think they have to go back and analyze all of the reasons that they now know. Trust me,
Yes.
you know it already. Stop analyzing where do you want to go. Because the only thing in the way of where you want to go is not that it happened, it's that you continue to analyze it.
Yes, it adds tension because the people are so focused on having responsibilities external to them and having control over them that as soon as it's about the self, of course, there is this tension of wanting to plan because people plan so much, work, external matters that when it's about the self is the same pattern. I totally agree with you, Sandy. In fact, when we take risk for our own selves instead of projecting it into the outside, that's when the transgression is positive because it starts within, and that's when you can take control. Often, though, sometimes it looks, for example, I don't take control, but we have to deal with our truths of life. Things happen, and we have to deal with them. So, many people go through that, and then happens to the other person. So, life is also a matter of being present, and we have to deal with the present too sometimes.
So, Glenn, what do you say to somebody if they say to you, listen, I went to therapy, which, by the way, is good. We should all go. You learn, you get understanding, you get closer, you have moments for venting. Therapy's great. But that now they realize now no change has come. So, Glenn, they come to you, they say, so I learned that I have all these keywords wrong with me, right? All these buzzwords wrong with me. I'm willing to do the work. Can you help me? Can we just start going through all the reasons that I got my dad stuff? What do you say?
All right. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
I have not just a answer. I have the answer for this because it's the truth. And I've learned through doing this kind of work that this is the truth. The bigger and more complex and complicated a problem feels, the easier it is to change.
I like it, but I want to know more.
Yes, it's true. If we look at that entire mountain of let's just say the entire mountain of bad emotions connected to the choices of your past. If we were to look at that entire mountain, there'll be one common denominator within all of those choices.
You.
And we deal with that one common denominator, and the rest all of a sudden goes into place. When I do a session like I just did, there's two sessions I'll only do, two types of sessions I'll only do one time, and we'll never, ever do them again. One is what I call the closer session, where we have somebody in our life that is either living or no longer living, but somebody we're necessarily not in direct contact with, that we have a history of bad things with. We'll do that saying goodbye session one time, and we never, ever even talk about it again because we think about it differently. It changes, that you don't need to keep digging. That saying, my daughter is just like, Dad, that is the most unprofound saying I've ever heard. When I say, if you keep digging at the past, you're going to get dirty. She's like, Dad, that's so stupid. I'm like, it's true.
It's true.
Digging up the past, the hole gets bigger and you get messier and messier. So you find there's always one common denominator in our negative patterns, behaviors, in our past traumas, and we just go to that space
What is an example of a common denominator that has come up for someone?
Well, one I had, it was, and this is going to sound so simple, but sometimes simple does not mean that it is not amazingly powerful.
Or that is
So
superficial, exactly.
yeah. So basically, here's what happened. This one client, she's had a lifetime of her mom telling her she's not good enough. This is why your marriage didn't work out. This is why it didn't work out. You never do this. You never do that. Just her mom dumped so much shit on her, even from a young age. Hey, I got an A. Well, why wasn't it an A plus? That kind of a mom. And this is stuck with her. Every time something didn't work out, it was her mom's voice in her head saying, "See, told you." You're not good.
Right. Yeah. Now I get what you're saying. So it's like how you do something is how you do everything. It's that thread that goes through who you can be.
Every time she was going to take a chance, try something new, it was her mom's voice in her head. Anytime she took a risk and it didn't work out, it was mom's voice in her head. And we went back to a moment with her mom. And when I do this, we go to the highest version, of her mom, not who her mom was in this lifetime. But the message she got was, this is her fucking problem, not mine. That simple realization changed her entire life. Because now when things come up, she's like, yeah, Mom, that's your fucking problem. It's not mine.
I totally agree.
And when we get past the anger, of the cursing and stuff, the woman who's your client can then go through the rest of her life rather than that's yours, not mine, right? That's a really good first breakthrough step. But ultimately a mantra throughout life, that's not mine. That's not mine in all areas of life. That's not mine. Just really clean, really pure. That's not mine. That's great.
But to embrace and not to, we can embrace the reason why, but we don't have to embrace the problem. But we can also, the new generation often is more aware than the old one. So sometimes regarding parent-child, we can also give them, some presence that can give them awareness and then do not embrace the problem necessarily.
So when you say like that one common denominator, because that we could unpack a lifetime of bad experiences that she had with her mom, and each one would be a talk therapy session. That would be an endless,
not necessary anymore.
Goes nowhere. Yeah. But when we get to that was never mine to take on. That was her problem. It wasn't mine. Yeah. And that's where it went to. And now you're free. So when those thoughts of the past come up, that's not me. That's not my voice. That's not my problem.
No.
You don't need to go back through every single thing now that you got the lesson. And now you're free to move forward. And that's what I would do in a situation where somebody has just a giant mountain they feel they need to unpack.
Francesca, I feel like, again, going back to exactly what you said in the beginning, it's about being a rebel, taking a risk, and Glenn gave a human life story of how that could really look. I think you're really saying the same.
Also the ability of challenging boundaries, because you do this with the closest people you have close to you, so parents, lovers, best friends. So it's the challenge of your own boundaries, which again create a deep understanding of yourself. If you...
With that, what you just said, it's so important in that moment, because I had another thought. Well, you just said challenging the boundaries. Most people never jump the income bracket.
Bravo, esatto.
They don't.
That's right.
Very few people jump the income bracket of their parents
because
they were taught those ideas about how money works, and that's what they stay with.
And Fraser asked, how do you, what kind of session do you use to dismiss her mother's influence? You don't need to dismantle the old influence. You need to create what it is you want to influence you now. Because if you keep looking at the mom and keep opening it up and trying to figure it out, then you're going to get more of that. Let it go. What do you want your influence to be? If you're looking at the radio dial, you don't have to be like, let's go to all the channels we don't want to hear. I don't want to hear that one. I don't want to hear that one. Let me rip it out. You just push the channel you do want. You just
I think he's asking I know Frazier. He's a great guy. I think he's asking more of a technique question. And so the specific technique I use for that is timeline therapy. I have them go back up into their past to a very significant moment with that person, and then drop into that moment and see what they saw and experience that again from that place. And then if I'm not 100% certain that they connected to it, we'll go back to maybe, I'll never do three is my max. We'll go back to 3 moments of their past. Generally, it's 2. We'll go to 1 to get them used to doing it. Then we'll float back up over the timeline using timeline therapy, and then go to the most significant moment. And what is the lesson that you can learn that will allow you for now and forever to detach from the emotions of the past with this person? What is the one lesson, the takeaway? And that was the lesson, that this was her issue, not mine. And that's kind of the technique I use for that with timeline therapy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Timeline therapy, we can also consider working in present and future before going back to the past, because the past is the not safe place. So we learn this new influence. We learn how to choose this new frequency on the radio. We practice it here. We do it with hypnosis. We go out in life. We do it in next future situations. We come back, and through hypnosis, we can practice doing even further future situations that haven't happened yet. Those are all safe. When we have evidence that we have done it, either in our mind or in real life moving forward, and we feel safe, that's when I would take somebody back. I would not take somebody back before they already have a level of desensitization forward.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Totally. And unless with a higher figure, in this case, because it is, unless you challenge the boundary, you start avoiding and not facing even your own self when it's the right time. So it's important never to reject, but to challenge instead.
Yeah, this. Dr. Kappas, he's on my mind a lot today, but he would use that word intact. If your client is healthy and intact, then you can do that. If your client is not healthy and intact, then you wouldn't do that particular exercise. It depends on the person that you are sitting in front of, But when somebody I knew this client was emotionally intact and healthily intact, and we could do that. And then if that wasn't going to work, if I didn't feel she was intact, we would do a saying goodbye session where we say goodbye to the little girl that has experienced the past without going into any specific situation.
You make a good point.
Yeah.
You make a good point, which is why this work is so amazing, because there's no manual that catches it all. You've got to be present. You've got to be aware. You've got to have your own rapport. You've got to have your own understanding. I get goosebumps because that's why this connection with clients in real time, you can't replace it with somebody's formula that came before now with some other client, right? So it's beautiful. I have a question for you, Glenn, before we wrap this up.
Also,
because you said...
Sorry, guys, what you just said, Sandy, everything is in flux. The truth, the emotions. So, it's a constant flux.
Yes, it is. It's constantly moving and changing, which is what makes this work so amazing.
Exactly.
Live, right now, right here, every moment. It's like a live concert as opposed to listening to a record,
Yeah.
right? So, right. Okay, Glenn, you said a line, and I wanted to get it, and I think I got it. Can you say it again about the bigger the problem, the easier to fix it? What did you say?
Yeah, basically the more complicated and the more overwhelming a problem feels, the easier it is to solve with the work that we do.
Okay.
So you've had those sessions where somebody comes with so many problems, you're like, all right, here's the deal. There's no way we're doing all that. Here's what we're going to do because that's the issue, and this issue is going to solve everything over here. Like that emotional, the emotional snowball can be cut with one proper technique.
Okay, now I get what you're saying, because I was wanting to understand it. I knew you had a good point, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
I didn't get it yet. But so when you then followed it with, it's always that one common thread, right? So
Yeah.
however big the mountain, so instead of seeing a mountain, the way for me to make it make sense is to see a game of Jenga, and the higher the stack of your little wooden blocks of problems,
Yes.
you just pull the one and everything falls down. It's just one that makes everything, that sort of makes it make sense.
Because most of the problems are thoughts, if we think about it. So, sometimes it's so easy to solve them, but unless, people don't resolve their own traumas and their own kind of thoughts and compulsion thoughts, it's impossible to solve matters.
Yeah, it is. A realization can change your entire life, because we are always the common denominator in our life's problems, right? If we look
So
at
take
all
yourself out of the Jenga game and then toss it.
So
An image I got. Wait. Oh, go ahead.
So we got to wrap this up because you've been a while. I'm going to paste one more time into these comments. Come on, comments. My next Saturday's super spectacular. Where is the link? Let me get it again. I'm going to repost it.
Text me next Friday night and be like, bitch, show up.
I'm so sad to miss this one. I can't believe it.
Yeah, it's okay. You'll be there in spirit.
Next Friday night, and I'll come. I'll remember to come.
Yes.
Also,
so
maybe
that will be for...
we can make a little recording of the whole experience so we can show our new friends and listeners, so maybe they can find this not too scary, because many people are still, not aware of these workshops. So
okay. And while Glenn is trying to get his comments section to work, we now, after today, will have 3 new recordings up and live on YouTube and on the podcast platforms. Not today, but soon, when my people get it posted. So we have 3 new ones coming up, but the very last of the 3 Ways podcast that's posted on YouTube is such a good one. It's the one about relationships. So even if you did watch it live, go back and rewatch it. I just thought that one was fantastic. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
yeah.
I think Francesca said she wanted to make out with me or something. Remember?
What? I didn't hear it, Sandy. I would always hang out with you guys anytime.
Today was like a different and weird and uncomfortable and word salady, but I really just loved it anyway.
I know I'm comfortable, actually. I know, because it's nice to handle the energy and make it comfortable. I like it.
Yeah.
See everybody next time, and everybody else, I better see you next Saturday on our Mindset Makeover webinar. It's going to be spectacular. So, love to
everyone. Okay, guys, can talk to see you soon. Bye, everyone.